Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Impact Entrepreneur Series. Today, we are talking to the lovely Kate Berlova. Hi, Kate.
Hello.
Also known as Katerina. So this is great. This is going to be a slightly different episode. If you guys haven't seen my episodes before, we are looking to raise the state of mental health and happiness in New Zealand. That is my personal goal. That is something that all the people, the amazing people I get to interview and shine the light on, we're all helping with that. And we're looking at resilience and wellness and health and happiness. And today we're going to dive deep in the topic of how to know when your mental health needs attention, either for you or somebody in your life. And Kate's got a personal story. She's going to share it with us, which is so amazing. And also looking at what are the signs, what are the things to look out for, and what are some things that can help. So that is what we're going to dive into today. So Kate, I'd love to hand it over to you. So Kate and I met when I spoke on a panel at this amazing event that you ran. And I know that you were living such a busy life at the time. So if you could maybe share with us, like what has your journey been? You can start at any point.
Sure.
And how does the mental health topic come into your story?
Sure. So just to share a bit of background, I come originally from Russia, and I bring a culture of a very tough, very strong woman that has to carry through all the parts of your life, through your work, through your family life. You're that unbreakable iron lady, basically, and that's how I was raised, and that's how I implemented my life for 30 years. Working 24/7, achieving my goals, personal projects, work. Very tough, very intense. But what I didn't realize, I was not giving any attention to what's going on inside of me because I was so busy. And at some point last year, I started feeling very different. I started going on that emotional descent that I couldn't figure out what's happening. I suddenly was unhappy with things that would usually make me very exhilarated. I would have long periods of depression, and my health was the same, but I had no energy. I had no motivation. I was blaming myself for those things and trying to push hard. So all the tools that I was using before, they suddenly stopped working until in about July, I hit the rock bottom. I think it was not long after the famous reporter committed suicide from TV1.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I caught myself thinking that, oh my God, I understand how he felt. That was for me a breaking point. I understand why someone can commit suicide, because he was probably in that excruciating mental pain that he had no way to stop. And that's what got me really thinking, what is going on with me? Where am I, with that? So I would like to share how I unraveled that, tried to understand my mind, and got myself to probably the best mental space in my life that I've been with, right now.
It's interesting I haven't heard about the unbreakable, the iron lady.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of people do, regardless of their culture. I mean, I grew up in Canada. I'm a Kiwi by blood, but I grew up in Canada. A lot of people do live their life like soldier on, must keep going,
Right.
Work hard. That is partly, I think, either, your family upbringing, your culture, your personality. There's a lot of things that go into that. But sometimes we're like, just work harder.
That's
push
right.
through.
That's what's admired by society these days, right? For us to do all of those things.
But what did you say to me before? Busy is the
new stupid. Yeah, I keep reminding myself about this.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the ways that we do cope and be resilient in life is often to dive into either numbing techniques, which is like work.
Absolutely.
Or like, drinking,
fitness,
alcohol, fitness,
fighting, shopping, overeating. I used all of those. Beautiful.
Right. So would you say, like, what are is that one of the signs maybe that people are kind of going a little bit diving low into their mental health, is that they start really doing extreme, some of those coping mechanisms?
For sure. So as my work that I was doing to recover myself and heal myself, I went through a year of therapy, and that gave me a lot of understanding what are coping mechanisms, what are avoiding mechanisms. And for example, I am a passionate CrossFitter, and it's a very intense sport. But what I realized through therapy, that I was choosing this sport to compensate for the mental pain with physical struggle during the training, because it was so intense. It allowed me to not focus on what's going on in my head. So you can be an extremely healthy person, extremely fit with your six pack, but you use it as your avoidance mechanism, which is very unhealthy, but very hard sometimes to determine if you don't have the right skills. So I would say that's one of the signs. If you're running into something that makes you extremely uncomfortable all the time, and when it's taken away from you, you feel like something is really wrong with your life. The same with chocolate, any food, comfort food, Netflix. We all do those things.
I think some people maybe, if you're watching, some people might have maybe a little bit of an aha or a wake up moment, especially with the example of the CrossFit. I mean, it might not be CrossFit for you. It might be something else. But, sometimes we do tend to pour time and energy into something because it either takes away the pain of something else or, that is quite fascinating. But then there's other things that you can do because they genuinely bring you joy. And I recently filmed another episode and it was all about joy where I talked to Amy McCauley. So we want joy, but I also acknowledge that happiness is not our goal 24/7. Like it's okay to feel sad.
Absolutely.
But what I'm chatting with today with Kate about is what about when it's more than that? It's more than like, I'm just having a rough day. I'm going through, we go through all sorts of emotions. I did an episode with Charlene Greer. We looked at boundaries. We looked at emotions and using your oils to cope through that and things like that. Today we're talking, what about like when it's serious? Yeah. So what else can people look for? What else happened for you in your journey?
For me, another big thing was my physical health. I suddenly became absolutely intolerant to caffeine. I'll have a cup of coffee in the morning and I will have my heart rate just going through the roof. I'm having a full-on anxiety attack. And I was drinking coffee before that for years. So your body is so connected to your mind. It's going to speak to you. It's going to speak to you and tell you, give me time, give me attention, give me peace, listen to me. It will manifest through allergies. Allergies are very emotional. People who have asthma, there was a lot of research done that asthma is a manifestation of certain mental problems, mental blockages. Anxiety attacks, it's one of the clear things. I have a lot of friends who say it's the norm. Living with anxiety attacks is just the way I am, which I don't agree with sometimes. A little bit of anxiety is good because that's what drives us sometimes and motivates us to push through things. But if you wake up and you have raging anxiety attack for half a day, like I did, this is debilitating, and there is an underlying issue most of the time. Another interesting thing which I would like to share is reactions. I started being very reactive to very small things. I will be at work and I am having a very calm technical conversation with a client, and client rejects my suggestion and I get absolutely angry. Inside, I get this huge reaction, pulsing blood through my head for no absolute reason. And that is a sign that your fight or flight response got fired up. If it got fired up, there is some unhealed trauma that probably that conversation triggered. So for me, the first step for healing was I didn't know what to do. No one could really explain to me what's happening to my head. So I started writing down every day the emotion and the situation that was happening. Anything bright, anything noticeable that I could catch myself feeling, I would write that down until it became a habit for me to notice in the moment, oh, wow, this is what I'm feeling inside. So that was my first step.
The writing down, was that partly like as a technique, a coping strategy, or was it like looking for a pattern, kind of researching yourself?
It was kind of
what is going on here?
It was kind of researching, the interesting thing. I had this journal, that motivation journal, it's called the Self Journal. And every day you would write the things that went well and lessons learned and gratitude and all of those bits and pieces. And I started going through this, and then I went back 2 weeks and I saw my pattern of thoughts going down, saying, I cannot achieve my goals. I'm very sad. I'm sad about this. I think I need help. That was one of my final writings in the book. And I looked at this and said, oh my God, something is really going on and I can't really figure out what it is. So I'm just going to keep a journal of my emotions. So,
that's something that people are told to do, physically, if you feel unwell, you take a journal, like write down what you eat and how you feel. Same thing with your mindset. So what did you do? Was there a turning point?
There was a turning point when I definitely caught myself about thinking about suicide. I won't say I wanted to go and kill myself, but I definitely planned out a scenario. If I do decide to do this, this is how I'm going to do it. How crazy is that? I have honestly an amazing life, and I knew that, and very grateful for everything I have. And to find myself in that point with those thoughts, that was a wake-up call for sure. I still didn't know where to go from there, and a friend helped me, wonderful friend, her name is Beth, and she's been working with a condition called chronic fatigue, and she heard my story and she gave me an article about emotional detox science, and that made so much sense to me. Oh my God, that article really changed everything for me. It explained all the physical symptoms that you would have when you go through an emotional detox, when your body is trying to unleash the trauma that you were holding on to for years. It talks about allergies. It talks about that you will be tired. It talks that you'll be irritable. It talks about your changing relationship with friends and family. And I ticked all those boxes, so for me, that was that light bulb.
Wow. So what we'll do is, if we can find that article, we can link to it below, because it sounds like what we're trying to do is just, I guess, show people that it's okay, to feel this certain way. And especially that pivotal moment when you said, I could see how he could do that. I could actually, I could actually see it, and you can relate. And it's like, okay, but then you've given us another tool, which is the tracking, writing down the emotions, looking at your journal and seeing the pattern or the decline. And then luckily your friend reached out to you. But if we can reach out to you guys, or you can pass on this video or this article that we're going to link to maybe help somebody in your life to not just identify, but then to be like, okay, well, now what do I do?
That's right.
So then you got therapy? Was that the next step?
Absolutely. So I started reading and doing research, and that emotional detox article was saying, if you discover yourself, you're there, what to do next is you need to create space for yourself. You need to create empty space, sit down in the quiet room, and really let your emotions come up. Be friends with them. Don't try to push the anxiety away. Don't try to push the tears away. Own them and let your body speak through those emotions with you. So I started doing just that for a couple of weeks. I will cancel my plans with friends. I will cancel my fitness. I will cancel certain work. And I will do it for 2-3 hours. And the funny thing, the thoughts will come up. The thoughts that would be related to very emotional things in life, a lot of it from childhood, old grudges I was holding against friends, loved ones, ex-partners, so on. And that gave me a lot of insight as to what I need to address. And that's when I said, okay, now I need help of a specialist to just work through that. So that was one of my first steps.
Hey, Sonia, we got Sonia on the Facebook Live. Can the article be linked, as I wish to give it to my daughter? We'll share the video when it's completed. Yeah, definitely. We can go Google that. I'll get you to maybe send that to me, and I'll pop it in for sure. Yeah. So what else? I mean, for you, and now you're in this totally different space, but back then, I, as a friend, so I've got, friends, I think everybody does, who are going through a hard time, but not just, everyone goes through hard times, but really like either depression or serious anxiety or even contemplating suicide. We've all got people in our life. So for me as the friend, I guess I would be like the Beth in your story.
Yep.
What advice can you pass on to us in terms of how can we help? Or what is not helpful? What are some things that we can not do? Anything like that?
I would suggest, and I try to practice this a lot with my friends, is to create that space for them to be there. If you feel that someone is having a problem, invite them over. When it's just one-on-one, very private, very intimate situation, hug them, give them that support and love, and say, look, it's okay. How are you feeling? Create that space for them to comfortably open up and share without any judgment or saying, I think you're having a problem. I think that may trigger a lot of people to distance. Maybe share something that you went through with, yourself. think that's the first step. And if they start opening up, and if they're going through a hard time already and they realize that, so once awareness is there, just be there for them. You know, so when I was having some of the rough times, I would call a friend and say, come and sit with me, stare at your phone. You don't need to talk to me. Just be there, give me your hand, make me a cup of tea, and just spend a couple of hours with me. And I think that idea that someone cares enough just to be present makes a huge difference.
Because that's really great. And I think the fact that you said, stare at your phone, just hold my hand, you're kind of giving them a little direction.
That's right.
Because someone like me, I would be like trying to like not give advice, because sometimes I don't have advice in this area. But otherwise, do people often would message you like, hey, how are you going? And you're like, that's probably not that helpful.
I don't mind it. I know that for some people it may be really hard to say, oh, actually, I'm feeling like shit. But just checking in some way, maybe it's something that doesn't require response. I really love sending this out and saying, hey, was thinking of you. I'm sending you, good vibes, wishing you a good day. Another thing is to probably understand that when you're going through something like this, it may be very scary and tiring and terrifying at times, because it feels like you're in the darkness and you don't know when it's going to end, to see the other side, because that's change and something new is being born. So actually there is a lot of positive underlying currents are happening at the same time. And I think that's what will be amazing to point out to everyone who is struggling right now. You're just going through a transformation like that caterpillar. You know that when caterpillar goes into a cocoon, it completely dissolves. And I think that's a beautiful metaphor for our mental growth as well. So we need to dissolve through all our ideas about ourselves, our traumas, our stuck thoughts, to become the most amazing version of ourselves. So there is always the light. And a lot of people may not have an ability to come to that realization of struggle that I need to change. So they will stay with their trauma for life, and they won't have an opportunity for this transformation. So I think we also need to realize that if we're there and we're struggling, it means life is pushing us to improve, So it's a lot of benefit in it.
I think one of the crucial things you mentioned when you talked about taking the quiet space, and then you realize some of this childhood stuff was coming up and there was resentment. And I think probably, I personally think some people have gone through stuff which is really horrible, or maybe even not that big a deal, but for them it was huge, and they hold it in their heart, or they hold it in their body, and they do have that resentment or their anger or that whatever. So I think, is it healing your childhood trauma? I think that's the phrase.
Absolutely, yes.
Can you tell us, what does that mean exactly?
So we all come from the childhood, and the article that I will share with you all actually has relationship to this test, which is called Adverse Childhood Experiences Test. And it's a simple 10 questionnaire test that I think it was designed in the 70s. And if you have a high score of this versus other people, you're also likely to have a lot of problems with your physical health. So that was the underlying reason for the test. But the questions about the childhood trauma can be someone in your family, your caretaker was going through depression when you were young, or someone was dealing with substance abuse, whether it's alcohol or even smoking, or someone was physically abusing you. It doesn't need to be a parent, but it can be your older sibling that was of huge respect to you, and you saw him as a child as a protector who actually was beating you up. From one side you can say, not a big deal, all siblings fight, but for someone's emotional health, actually that could have been detrimental and you wouldn't even know about it. Also, some of the traumas you will not even remember because they happened in the first year of your life. You could have been dropped, and it can have a massive impact on your head.
A couple of things coming up there. One is I did another Impact Entrepreneur interview with Ann Cullen. So I'll put the link below, because we talked about the importance of the first 1,000 days, which is something that, as a mother of 3, my youngest is 8, my oldest is 12. I was like, I didn't know about that. Like I didn't get the memo. But I think, like, you're right. There's in the first 1,000 days, which actually is from pregnancy through to age 3. that is formative time. And some of that we're not going to remember, but it's imprinted in our body. And like you said, there's such a link between the emotional experiences and the physical state of the body, and that can just come up, like you mentioned before, with the asthma. It's like, oh, well, what's irritating you, or eczema. What else is really irritating you in your life? And whenever someone says, I've got a UTI, urinary infection, I'm like, what else in your life is really pissing you off? Like, I ask them that, and I'm not even joking, because there is such a link between mental health and physical well-being. But I think going back and healing that childhood trauma, and I know Anne does work in that area as well, so I'll put the link below, but I think it's something that people just soldier on, or they just never have the opportunity to really process it or deal with it, and then it ends up processing them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's lack of knowledge as well. Until I started researching, I didn't know how strong of a link between your physical health and your mental health is. So I always thought, just brush it off, power through. That's what we admired for in the world: working hard, achieving goals, or the hustle. Everyone is worshiping the hustle these days, and nobody's saying to you, sit down, have a cup of tea, have a little cry, switch your phone off, because this is very important for you if you want to be there for yourself and for everyone around you, because you cannot pour from an empty glass, but this is not given to everyone, and we don't think it's important to go and study or do research about this, what to do. So we're just stuck in that idea, we don't know what we don't know, and being in that misery.
I think there is I'm really pleased to see a slow awakening, I suppose, of people going, actually, you know what, this is not serving us as a society. I mean, I'm a go-getter, I'm a hustler, like I work hard, all that, but I also have this cough, right? But I also, like, if I turn the camera, right, you guys can see my beautiful swing chair, or my other chair outside that my cat is lying on. And I take moments, for me. I'll take moments for me. Or sometimes I'll get to the point, like I did with my husband the other day, when I was like, all I want to do is I actually want to work till 5, and I don't want to be in charge of the kids like every day after school. So sometimes saying what you actually desire in your life in terms of lifestyle design, rather than me going, oh, this is annoying. Why does the mom always have to be in charge? And this state is not going to be very good for the body or the relationship. I think sometimes actually speaking up, and this isn't mental health, this is just like day-to-day motherhood. Absolutely. But the point is, if we actually start creating a life that we want, we don't have to go down that path so far. But some people do go down that path, and I think reaching out for help and realizing it's not okay to soldier on and to keep hustling. It is okay and really good to make number one your number one. So you guys might have heard me say this before, make number one, that's you, and you, your number one priority. And when you do that, then you're in more of a position to help others in your life.
That's right.
So with your journey carrying on, so you got some help, you researched, you're obviously like a learner and a researcher, which is great. What else helped to kind of not pull you out, but to help you, like the butterfly, become who you are? And it's still a journey, right? Yes, I believe like no one's got it all figured out. Nothing's perfect. It's all a journey. But what has helped you to the caterpillar to crawl out?
Definitely support of my community. So I had to make a first step, of course. I had to share with my friends, guys, I'm screwed. This is where I'm at. And they said, okay, what can we do? And they definitely helped. Sometimes by not bothering me. I just want to give a shout out to my best friend. Her name is Olga. You've met her at the event. Awesome. We were flighting together at that time, and sometimes she'll pack my lunch, or she will do my laundry, because I was falling apart. And she gave me that support without asking anything back, understanding that I was grumpy or unable to be there for her. And there were people who would come and make me a cup of tea and just be there. And I think that was amazing. I have a very supportive boss who allowed me to work from home in the hard times and not show my puffy face. So community, definitely very important. Please reach out to everyone around you. There's nothing wrong with that. With saying, I'm not fine, help me. You're not putting responsibility on them to fix your problems, not at all, but you're just asking for their presence, and that's important.
Did you find that when you not came clean, but when you said to them, like, just lay it on the table, like, I'm screwed, did you, like, was that kind of freeing? And were you surprised or just relieved by the support that came right in?
I was surprised. I wasn't surprised. I had a lot of faith in my friend circle, but it also, I've seen so much respect that they showed me for leading the change, because actually the start of my story was the start of their stories, of their healing journeys, and they showed me huge respect for being brave, you know, for dropping that image of always strong, always tough, always powerful girl, to say, actually, I'm struggling.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think people struggle at any age. I mean, obviously you and I have, I don't know, 10 or more years between us. And then there's Sonia here talking about wanting to give the video to her daughter. And I think it is an interesting and very challenging time to grow up in right now,
For sure.
Especially with the digital age and the constant connection and people judging themselves, Insta famous, all that kind of stuff. I think it's an interesting and very challenging time on society. And so for you to lead the way and be like, you guys, I'm screwed, it actually allows other people to go, yeah, I'm not, me too. Instead of everyone feeling like they have to pretend.
That's right.
That they've all got it, like everything's great.
That's right. Because you look, at the end of the day, we're not fooling anybody. You know, it will show up one day or another. And I think it's everyone's responsibility. It's your responsibility to bring the best energy to the room. It's your responsibility to make the decision to get better. And what I would encourage you to do is, if you are not doing well in that space, make the decision to speak about it and do something, you know, and everybody else will do the same. They will be encouraged to do this. And I think it's a big struggle because we don't know how to start. So start is very important.
Well, that is a great way to finish. I think that is a strong message, which is like, just reach out. I guess if you're the person, even saying, you guys, I'm screwed, like that is like, just say that, like, even if it's just messaging it to a friend or saying it out loud. And then for me, you know, as the friend, if I think there's a friend that I'm really concerned about, like recently I learned about a friend that's had depression for a while and I just had no idea.
That's
so
right.
We just think,
sometimes.
She's just, you know, gone underground, or like I haven't heard from her in ages, or she's taking ages to reply to me. So, I guess it's just reaching out and maybe even me being there with no expectations, like making the tea,
absolutely,
sitting there quietly, not asking 1,000 questions.
That's right. And you're not there to resolve anyone's problems. It's our own responsibility to go through that healing. But you know, when someone is present there for you, that's amazing.
If just a little parenting note here, if people have someone, you know, a child maybe that's going through a hard time, I know that my friend Amanda Betts, she did this with her son growing up, is that they would make the car was their safe space. So in the car, that's where, like, you know, he could say anything and she could ask, you know, anything, and like, and it's like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So it didn't mean they wouldn't keep talking about it at dinner. She wouldn't hassle him about it, you know. And so the only rule is that, like, she just would, like, listen, and then they close the door and they're done, you know. So if you've got more than one kid, it's a bit different, but I just thought that was cool and maybe helpful to some people that are parents that have a child, or maybe not, maybe with your brother, sister, or husband, wife, you know, that when you're in the car, because imagine we're driving, right? It's like it's not as confrontational.
That's
like
right, absolutely.
Staring you in the eyes. So when you're driving, you're there in the same space, nobody can hear your conversation. And this is where you can share. So I don't know if that helps, but you as a family or in a relationship, you can make that part of your kind of agreement or your ritual, that maybe like the car is your safe space to share. And you know they're not going to like ask you 1,000 questions or bring it up time and time again afterwards.
That's amazing that you're saying, because safe space is a concept used in therapy. When I was going through therapy, in order for you to be able to come back from your memories as you go through that technique, you need to have a safe space in your mind, whether it's your room or anywhere where you can feel absolutely secure and comfortable. So even if it's not a safe space about sharing, which is an amazing thing to have, if you have children, do they have that safe space at home? Do they have the room where they can be absolutely certain they can be on their own when they need to, you know, and they will not be disturbed? So I think that's also important, because if you cannot relax, you cannot heal.
And that is so fascinating too, because some people might be going, oh my gosh, interesting. You know, my kids share a room, or we've had the relatives staying. They actually have nowhere to retreat to.
Absolutely.
To get away, especially if their personality type is more of, you know, that introvert that requires time away from people to refuel. So thank you. You planted so many little seeds today. I hope you guys have enjoyed that. One of the things that we talked about, I'm totally open to your thoughts. I do have a Facebook group. It's called Impact Entrepreneurs, Collaborations for Positive Change. Now that is really for people that run a business, or speakers, authors, whatever, and they want to make a change. So basically the people that I'm interviewing and people like them, and that's where we kind of toss ideas around. But Kate said to me, do you have anywhere for people to go that are viewers, you know, that maybe want to like carry on the conversation either with each other or ask some of your guests, you know, a few more questions? And I don't. But it is something that now that she's asked me that, I mean, if you guys are interested, we could look at creating a free group, which would be like Impact Entrepreneurs Support or Community or something like that.
Right.
Anyway, open to your thoughts about that. But Kate, one of the things I always ask people is there a charity or organization that you would like to do a little shout out to or shine the light on that could help people?
Sure. I would love you to maybe go and learn about Vipassana. So there is a Vipassana center up in Auckland, and it's a worldwide organization. So it's based on a Buddhist meditation technique. You go to a 10-day silent retreat. For 12 hours, you meditate every day, and you completely cut off from any new information in the world. So no reading, no writing, no listening to music, no TV, nothing. And you go completely into your mind. And really, that's where I started my journey into a descent, but then on the up, because that was my first opportunity to be fully in touch with my thoughts for such a long time. I don't think you can donate directly to them. You can only after you experience Vipassana for yourself. And for me, that was the most mind-blowing experience of my life. And I would strongly encourage you all to think about doing that at some point.
That is a really, really good one. So people know what I'm wanting is to just give people ideas of places they can go or resources they can look up. I know that when I interviewed Anne, she talked about there's a place in Taranaki, and I'll find the link, where people can go if they are feeling low or just going through a hard time and they just need to go to a safe space. So I imagine it's almost like a backpackers, but it's not, because it's not just for travelers. It's for people that just need time away to recoup and to recenter. And so I thought that was a great resource, and I think it's free. I'm not really sure. So I'll find out the details. It's in Taranaki. Thank you, Sonia, for your lovely thoughts. Sonia says this has been wonderful to listen to and supported for people supporting somebody. I'm so glad. I mean, one of the things I kind of had a little epiphany of my own as a business entrepreneur a few months ago was like, I want to help the people who help the people. So if I can help shine the light on the people who have skills, resources, techniques, businesses, products, services that will help people, because I want to help people, but I don't want to do it by myself.
Right.
So that's what I'm doing, staying in my zone of genius, which is like chatting, talking to people, and just having these conscious conversations. And thank you so much for just sharing your journey so openly with everybody today. Any final thoughts from you?
Just saying thank you to you, Natalie, for doing this, for creating this platform. I was looking for ways to share something that I've learned on the way, and that was amazing to see that you're doing this work and how many people really care. And I think that just creates the movement and makes it bigger and bigger, and will ultimately become a world of more balanced and happy people.
Well, that is our goal. We are trying to raise not just the resilience. We actually want to be more genuinely happy, and just make sure everyone knows they can always reach out.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us today, you guys. See you.